In this video, we'll be going through entries 12 through 42 from the Ashley Book of Knots. These entries deal with knot tying terminology. Ashley gives 3 different meanings for the word knot. The first and broadest meaning given for a knot is that it applies to all complications in cordage, or we could say all intentional tying of rope, cord, yarn, string, etc. This meaning doesn't include anything accidental, such as snarls or kinks, or intentional wrapping or tying for storage. The second meaning of a knot doesn't include bends, hitches, splices, and sinnets, which we will discuss later. And the third and narrowest meaning of a knot applies only to a knob or bunch tied in a rope to prevent it from unreeving, which is the withdrawing from an opening, to provide a handhold, or to prevent fraying. Ashley says that at sea, the topic of knots is commonly separated into 4 categories: hitches, bends, knots, and splices. A hitch makes a rope fast to another object, or we could say it makes a rope secure to another object, or it fastens it firmly to it. A bend joins 2 rope ends together. A knot applies to knobs and loops, and anything not included in the other 3 categories, such as fancy and trick knots. Long and short splices join 2 rope ends together by using multiple strands of the rope ends, and are considered multi-strand bends. I-splices use multiple strands to make a loop and are considered multi-strand loops. Ashley discusses 2 types of knob knots. A knob for this discussion is a bunch tied in a rope to prevent it from unreeving, and as we said earlier, unreeving means withdrawing from an opening. The first type of knob knot is a stopper knot, which is a knob with the rope end passing out of the top of the knob. The second type of knob knot is the button knot, which has the rope end passing out of the knob and is parallel with the standing part of the rope. The stopper knot can be further divided into 2 categories. The first is the stopper knot proper, which is a terminal knot, as it's tied near the end of a rope, and the second is a lanyard knot, which is tied in the central part of the rope. Ashley describes 4 exceptions to these categories that are among sailors' knots. The first is the fisherman's bend, which is an anchor hitch. The studding sail halyard bend and the topsail halyard bend are yard hitches. The fourth isn't numbered, but is noted as being discussed in Chapter 12. It is the row band hitch, which is a binding knot. When tying knots, we can consider the rope to have 3 parts: the end, standing part, and bight. The end of the rope is its extremity. The standing part is the inactive part as opposed to the bight and working end. The bight of a rope has 2 meanings. The first is any central part of a rope that is distinct from the ends and standing part. The second meaning is a curve or arc in a rope no narrower than a semicircle. This then leads us on to loops. An open loop is a curve in a rope narrower than a bight, but the ends are separated. A closed loop has the legs brought together but not crossed. A loop knot, or simply a loop, is made when the end of a rope is made fast to its own standing part, or when a loop in the bight of a rope is closed and knotted. Ashley next uses an example of a vessel with 2 anchor cables to describe what happens when they cross. When one cable lies over the other, it's called a cross of the cables. Another cross creates an elbow, another cross a round turn, and another a round turn and an elbow. A hitch is described again, but here it's described as a knot tied directly to or around an object. It's noted that many hitches will capsize if removed from the supporting object. A loop knot or loop is again described in a little bit more detail, and it says that it serves about the same purpose as a hitch, but a loop is tied in hand, meaning it is first tied, then it's placed around an object. A loop will retain its shape after being removed from the object. The last 3 entries illustrate turns in a rope. There is a single turn, a round turn, and 2 round turns. Now that terminology has been covered, Ashley discusses some knots that are commonly confused with each other. This is where we will pick up in the next video.